Hey, good morning, everyone. So, welcome to day 33 of Hormone Bootcamp. And so today I want to talk a little bit about adaptogenic herbs. Reishi mushroom is actually going to be the topic of today. Also, if you were not in the Facebook Live last night, highly recommend watching the video. It's inside of the Facebook group. I will update the links in the in this live video, later today. My phone's having some issues apparently, so I couldn't really do it. But anyways, let me go ahead and get started. So, reishi mushroom is going to be the topic of today. So that's one of the other adaptogenic herbs that we're using for week number 5. Now, reishi mushroom is actually one of the herbs that got me started on my journey. And this was this was early in my in my journey. When I first started, I was actually talking to mom about a lot of the issues that I was having. And I remember, back then, before I knew a lot of the things that I know now, I was just talking to her, and I was essentially describing to her what I was feeling, what I was going through. And I remember this is before I knew of the term leaky gut, that it existed. But I basically told her, it's like, I feel like whenever I eat something, like there's a hole in my stomach and food is just leaching out. And that's basically what it felt like. And later on, I came, to find out that, there's a name for that, and it's called leaky gut, and it just made sense. Anyways, so while I was talking to her, she basically introduced me to reishi mushroom. And me being the wonderful skeptical son, I basically asked her, like, what is that? And I was very skeptical about it. But long story short, she practically looked at me and just essentially said, shut up and take it. And after a few days, I started to notice the effects, I guess, of, eating these nutri-medicinal foods. If you've watch the video on adaptogenic herbs, which I have the link in the description of this live video. One of the things that you're going to notice from watching that video is that these herbs are very conductive. So they have a lot of minerals, they have a lot of nutrition in them, and they also are very detoxifying. And so one of the reasons why mom knew about it is actually because my she's also had a lot of gut issues herself, and also because my dad was also dealing with diabetes. And this was around the time that I was essentially waking up to the realization that, hey, I grew up, I guess, in a family with poor eating habits, and I'm sharing stuff that I don't really like to share much, because it's things about family and how we grew up. But it's the truth. And this was one of those days, I remember right around that time, where I woke up one day, and I was staying at my parents at that time, and I remember my dad waking up, and he was in the kitchen, and I could tell that he wasn't feeling good. But he wasn't really saying anything. He was just sitting there in the kitchen, and he was just kind of like rocking back and forth. And I asked him, like, hey dad, do you feel okay? And he's like, yeah, he's all right. But I could tell that he wasn't. And then shortly after, he just, got up, he ran to the bathroom and basically started puking. And we ended up taking him to the hospital, and he had his gallbladder removed. And so now the reason why I'm sharing this is because this was around the time that I started to, essentially wake up to, the realization that, hey, if I don't take care of my health, this is basically how I am going to end up, like my parents. And again, like, I don't blame my parents for, not teaching me, I guess, health. Because I just think that most people just don't understand health. Like, we were not born with a manual that teaches us how are we supposed to feed our bodies? How are we supposed to maintain, this machine, this temple, this thing we live in? And that's essentially what I am doing. I'm essentially trying to figure out, like, hey, what is it that we actually need? What's good for the body? What isn't good for the body? How does the body function? Like, how are we supposed to be using this? And so I started to research. And so as I started to research, one of the first videos that I came across was the video that basically explains the purity and the potency of reishi mushroom, which again, if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend that you watch it. But it's a light bulb experiment where they take the reishi mushroom, they put it in water, and then they take this, this device where it's essentially a product that once you put it in water, if the water has minerals in it, that means the water is conductive. And so that allows for electricity to basically flow through it, and the light bulb basically turns on. And so, you have to watch the video, I guess, to like really get it. But anyways, so as I'm watching that, I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I didn't really understand what it meant. I didn't understand how that applied to the body. And that's actually what led me to a lot of, it basically made me ask a lot of questions, and it's what led me to a lot of the things that I am now sharing. Because as I started to research, okay, well, why is the light bulb turning on? Like, what does that mean for the body? How is that good for me? Basically what I got out of it is like, hey, what you need is your body to be conductive. And in order for your body to be conductive is you need minerals. And this was right around the time that I had that epiphany where it's like, wait a second, this is just like brewing beer. I cannot brew beer without good quality water, and I cannot brew beer without minerals. And this is when I started to research conductivity in the body. And as soon as I started to dive deeper into it, that's when I had my epiphany. This is where I realized, okay, I think I know how I can get my energy back. And I think that I know what's going on. And it's basically that the food that I have been eating has been demineralized, and the foods that I've been eating have been demineralizing my body. And I just need to basically pay attention to the same things that I would pay attention while brewing beer, which is pay attention to the quality of water, minerals, pH, temperature, and the bacteria. And so adaptogenic herbs, to me, the way that I see them and how this applies to Hormone Bootcamp is that the nutrients that you eat, right? And we're going to be talking about this during week 6. The nutrients that you eat can help you produce hormones. But when it comes to balancing hormones, what you need to get rid of is toxicity out of the body, because it is toxins that basically can create an imbalance in hormones. And a lot of the toxicity can come from demineralized foods. And I think the biggest problem really that we're seeing is demineralized sugar. And this will come in various sources from, sodas, and sugar is in just about every kind of food. If you go through the aisles at just about any grocery store, I don't remember the percent, but I want to say somewhere like around 80% of everything that is packaged into a box or can has some sort of sugar. And it may not be labeled sugar. It may be labeled as a dextrin, maltodextrin, or some other name, but it's basically sugar. Ketchup, for example, ketchup has high fructose corn syrup, and it's not supposed to be a food that has sugar. Ketchup, if you go to traditional cooking methods, ketchup is supposed to be a lacto-fermented tomato. It's basically a fermented food, but most people don't even know that that's how ketchup is supposed to be made, and they're just used to the store-bought version. It's just like, growing up in, in a third world country, I guess, in Mexico, seafood, if you were to eat seafood and you order, fish, they give you the whole fish. And most people look at that and they're like, and I get it. I mean, if you have an eye, the eye of the fish looking at you, you may not want to eat it. But that's basically how it's supposed to be. Whereas people here, they grow up and their idea of fish is in a box. Fish comes in a box and it's a fish stick that's breaded, right? That's basically the idea of it. Milk, same thing. For most people, milk, it's supposed to be pasteurized, and that's not how milk is supposed to be. I'm going to be talking about a lot more about this weekend. But I'll say, right now, just because it's going to bear repeating, milk does not need to be pasteurized. The only reason why milk is pasteurized is because it comes from unhealthy cows. And if you're drinking milk from unhealthy cows, that's the problem to begin with, is that your source of milk is coming from unhealthy cows. And if you begin to understand that, when you pasteurize, you're basically cooking foods. And when you're pasteurizing something, you're killing all of the enzymes and all the probiotics. And this is why people are experiencing lactose intolerance. This is why they're not able to digest the protein, the casein in dairy. And then there's the other issue, which I guess would be quantity. I think that, dairy products are not something that we should be consuming very often, but only really as needed. And this is like when you basically go from eating, out of pleasure, where you live to eat, and basically transform yourself and start to eat to live. And you begin to look at food as medicine. You begin to look at food as a way to nourish the body, not so much for pleasure, which you can still do, have meals where it's, more about pleasure, but really you just got to learn to take care of your body. And that's basically what I am essentially researching and looking for myself. And that's what I'm sharing with everyone here. But anyways, I got a little bit off track, but point is, there's a nutrient side, eating the right foods for hormone production. And then there's the adaptogenic herbs, which is meant for detoxification. And that's where hormone balance comes in. And the way that you're going to actually use it, or I should tell you the way that I use it, is I basically go on cycles where I will go into a hormone production cycle. And then, so I'll eat the foods that help me produce hormones. And then I basically go through a phase where it's all about balancing those hormones. And to balance, it's all about detoxing. And that's where fasting comes in. That's where adaptogenic herbs comes in. That's where making sure that you have minerals comes in. Probiotics and all of those things. That's where all of that comes in. And it's not like you're going to do this one time and just, be done and over with. I think the biggest problem is that a lot of people are not willing, and they just don't want to give up their current lifestyle. They don't want to give up their cookies. They don't want to give up their, whatever food. Like, I didn't want to give up beer. I didn't want to give up pizza. I don't want to give up burgers. That's basically what I used to eat. That used to be kind of like the staples in my diet. I guess whenever I was quote unquote being healthy is when I actually left the lettuce on the burger. Or if I woke up and I made myself like, what I thought would be a healthy breakfast, like an omelet with oatmeal and orange juice. And I guess that can still be healthy if you can prepare it right and have the right sources. But again, eating the right foods is only part of it. The rest of it is going to come in, detoxifying the body, make sure that the body is clean. And that's where adaptogens come in. And so for me, I go through that cycle. I make hormones, and then I just basically balance out hormones. And here's the cool thing though, that, what I have found is that once you get your body to a state that, they call it homeostasis, when it's in balance, when it's just, like it just has everything that you need, it's so much easier to maintain it. And you don't have to be doing a lot of the things that, that you're going to be doing in the beginning just to get yourself up to speed. I guess the best way that I can describe it is it's kind of like mastery. It's mastery of something. If you were to learn how to play an instrument, when you're first starting out, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of practice. It's a lot of rote memorization. It's a lot of, learning new things. Your fingers will hurt from, pressing on the chords on the guitar, or, if you're playing piano, maybe from stretching your fingers, whatever, there's going to be growing pains. But the more that you do it over and over, you begin to develop this dexterity, and it becomes second nature to where you don't really have to think about it anymore. And it just becomes a part of who you are. And that's really what, what I'm trying to share with you. It's like the habits that I'm creating for myself, so that I don't have to think about these things. And it's just, just me living life and navigating and just basically optimizing my health, my diet, and my life in general. So anyways, I hope that made sense. If it didn't, I'll clarify it. But anyways, do watch the video that I posted last night. Like I said, I don't have the link right now, but I have a link to the group. So just go to the Facebook group. It should be one of the top videos. It's just the live video that I did yesterday. I talk about gluten, understanding gluten, which is going to also clear up a lot of other things that I've talked about in the past. and also help you understand, why sourcing out the right, foods is important, especially when it comes to milk, because, and I guess this was one other thing that I wanted to talk about is, the reason why a lot of cows are unhealthy is because they are being fed grains that are not healthy. And these are the same grains that we are trying to get out of our diet, because just like it's affecting our gut health, it affects the gut health of these cows. And just like it would happen with us, these cows will have hormone issues. They will have, gut issues. So the nutrients that's coming out of, those products, they're just not good. They're not good. You don't have the nutrition that you are looking for. So this is why, like, you got to pay attention to like every little detail and everything that, that I'm sharing, because it's a lot of information, but once you put it all together, it just makes sense. And so I really hope that everything is making sense for you, that it's clicking for you, and that you just start one step at a time. Start by hydrating, adding minerals, and understanding how that affects everything else around you. So that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoy that, and enjoy the rest of your Friday, and have a good one. All right, talk to you later.